Greater Key of Gressil. This is session number 3, entitled On the Run. These are the Patreon series of games. So the Patreon members are grand wizards who've been drawn from all different parts of time and space into this very strange series of events. Last session, the group had spent some time in the Hell of Envy, known as Anduat, dealt with dealt with were handled by something happened with them and the greater or the demon prince of envy, known as Sod Derlothoth, former uh, patron of Eslo, played by Steve here. So that was an interesting engagement. After going through the strange libraries and tomes of lore in Anduat, the group was given options to exit the hell and enter into one of 8 choices. They elected for the most tranquil and nice looking option. As they enter through the gate, they fall from a height safely through some sort of feather fall like effect. They come to land out in an open field with a small river running from what appears to be north to south. To the north, there is a massive mountain off in the distance. The mountains aren't really recognizable to anyone, nor are the plains around them or the river near them. The riverside running north appears to be littered with a series of polearms, spears, pikes, glaives, and the like that have been impaled in the ground and have scarves, shawls, cloaks, and the like kind of hanging off of them and fluttering in the wind. Everyone, including those of you who haven't been party, would recognize these as the robes worn by the one who invited you into this mess, Gressil. You can elect to follow the river southward and head away from what appears to be the ripped up shawls. You can kind of quest off in any cardinal direction you so wish, or you could follow the river northward, going upriver and trying to figure out what's with these strange shawls and spears.
North is also mountains, yeah?
Correct.
Okay.
It's primarily one mountain. It definitely has a certain height to it. It's not the biggest mountain you've ever seen in your life. For some of you who've had the pleasure of worldly travel, you've probably taken in the sight of Angdanuk, which is the greatest mountain in all of the world of Urs. But it's definitely a mountain.
Seems Gressil's laid a trail for us. If we wish to return back to our homes, we may have to play along with his games a while longer.
Agree. Finding him will help us with this mystery.
You hear a few strummed notes as I come on up into the group, and I say, excuse me, chaps, but where might I find myself? I fear I have lost my way. I saw a light, and now I am here in this valley with you.
Your fate is the same as ours. You've been summoned by a miserable individual known as Gressil. Seems to be he had some need of us. The need seems to have consistently be changing. I fear the only way to return back to our homes is to play along.
I know not where we are, but I do know we're a long way from home.
The events of the last couple of episodes here would be historical knowledge for Wandre. You've been walking alongside them, and they've seen aspects of you in the mists. They've seen other mages kind of drawn in. Go ahead and make a history check, though.
Got it. 1 second.
Because you're a bard. Bards would know shit.
do, especially College of Lore bards.
Yeah, they are smart lads. Okay, so with the first roll, you know that Gressil wasn't the one that summoned you. You know that you were summoned and why you were summoned, and why you were marked. The one that summoned you was a wizard named Cardiff, who's a Chronomancer. And historically, in your version of history, he was a great hero who basically created the world that you're familiar with in your timeline, in your history. He was the one who purged the world of its sin.
Well, I fear, chaps, that you may be mistaken. Coming to understand my surroundings as you so described them, I feel we may have been summoned by a mage instead called Cardiff. Have you heard of this man? Do any of you know him?
I thought we did, right?
Yeah, you've seen him twice.
Well, it would seems that we are on a grand quest, and I am oh so excited. Let us go along this river.
Heading north or south?
North!
North it is.
I head along playing songs.
The one who we follow is not fond of chronomancers, it seems.
Wait a minute, my friends. I do not know who you are, but I am Venkar the Dark, of the court of the wizards of the favored ones, in service of the dragon lord Reneth, destroyer of foes. I stick out my hand, like, to shake.
Make a history check.
Do what, insight check?
Smokey, go ahead, get a history check.
Oh, yeah, okay.
'21, pretty good. So Venkar the Dark was a grand mage in the court of the favored ones in the Dragon Isles, far to the west of ENA, thousands of years ago. You recall that Venkar the Dark eventually was the one that slayed Reneth, the dragon who he just said he serves, and basically created a time of peace and prosperity in the Dragon Isles. Helping to defeat an older creature, an older evil known as the Ancient Ones that resided underneath the Isles, the Dragon Isles. Venkar was then ripped out of time, and you think this might be where he was deposited.
I am starting to put the pieces together. Venkar, you are a hero. I am amongst heroes. There are heroes here.
Yeah, we're all heroes.
Stories to be told. A grand adventure.
I love that, Steve.
So as you're walking along, playing your tune, and having your conversation with Venkar, to describe, Steve, your character's just describe your character lightly, but also kind of describe the just kind of mood and candor that he would be kind of portraying here in this walk.
He's definitely probably the most brooding of the group. He's probably the one constantly looking away from the group into the distance. He does wear dark robes of black with purple trim. He holds a very sinister staff that has writhing leathery tentacles at the end, coalescing around a font of power. Probably the most uneasy thing is that he has a familiar, and it seems to be some sort of tiny beholderkin, but rather than having a singular ocular eye, it has his own face as its face. And when he communicates with it, it's almost like unnerving. It's like he's talking to himself in this weird, disturbing way.
You know, admittedly, for heroes, some of you have a bit of a funky sort of a dark,
edginess,
edgy look to you.
We have a broad definition of heroes here.
But you haven't been given his name as of yet. You would
I don't
also
judge.
note the other mage here, and go ahead and make a history check. This one will actually be relatively low. Yeah, nailed it. So you would recognize the individual, the older gentleman who Andy is about to describe to you, as Bartleby. Bartleby is one of the fathers of magic in your knowledge of history. He is basically the author of most magic that is kind of aspired to in your like knowledge of magic. He wrote the fundamentals, and he also took the older texts, those of Onionomen, those of the older mages, those of Rakash, those of great ancient mages, and formed the greatest library in all of known kind of lore. And also true, he is also a hero in that that library was going to be burnt to the ground by a group of individuals who served Vajoth Lothgrain, and he stopped the burning and stopped the rioting of the individuals who feared magic and wished to destroy this knowledge.
Ah, Bartleby, I know you well. I have studied at your library many a time. I owe you much of my knowledge, I would say.
Oh, thank you, young man. He looks up and he's writing in his book, "The Fool." He's writing, "The Fool." Thank you, young man.
You're
He puts
very,
it
very
back.
welcome.
You see, he's kind of disheveled, slightly older, like myself, and yeah, he puts his nose back in the book and is walking absent-mindedly away.
I would expect no less.
And there's Venkar from the block there. That said, you would see a very strange-looking mage who you don't recognize, kind of walking along with the group, who's quiet at first, but then you see that he becomes mist-like. And also, walking along with the group and becoming mist-like is another dragonborn who is silver, and kind of thinking back to Bartleby's recollections, that is Rakash, who walks into the mist. So you're kind of like one mage you do not recognize and just disappears into the mists, and another mage you definitely recognize and also falls into the mist, just as you came out of these mists. It seems that nothing's holding you to this place, and it's moving through these mages for some strange reason, like ability for players to play.
What a strange anomaly this is, this misty, gaseous form we seem to apparate in and out from.
Chaos magic. That said, you continue walking on. Does anybody investigate the shawls, collect the shawls and cloaks and scarves, or?
Yeah, sure, and also the pikes upon which they're set.
Okay.
Do we recognize who might carry such things?
So the weaponry seems to kind of fall in line with the weaponry that would be used by Aetan warriors. So ancient human civilizations were tribal. Some tribes you've heard of in past games, the Bazrael and the Svirks. Plenty of different like primordial human tribes. And as they ascended up, the ones that became more civilized and started to kind of create cities and the like were ones that served the elves. And those servants of the elves were known as the Aetan. And they helped fight against the dragonkind during the War of Sword and Serpent. And the first Aetan civilization that was created was the nation of Parnak, which I think everybody here is pretty familiar with.
Thinking back, is there any reason why we would know, or Bartleby would know, that Gressil wouldn't be in the favor of such people? Anything?
Well, the thing that you notice is that the spears and pikes, like as you're kind of looking at them, appear to be in that kind of manner. Do you move over to grab the scarves or take them off, or
Sure.
all of the weapons appear to be completely made out of stone, as if they were petrified. The shawls in question are still fabric, of course, they're fluttering through the wind, but you can see that there's telltale signs of kind of them being torn away. It's not the full shawl or the full cloak or the full, random piece of cloth. It's like a ripped portion of it, and you can see that there does appear to be kind of staining near the rips and tears, a kind of reddish colored staining.
It seems Gressil did not leave this as markers for us, but maybe, or perhaps he did, but was injured along the way. It's unclear.
Yeah, I agree. Don't know if this seems to have a mix. He could have left them, but is the red staining, is it like dried blood? Or is
Yes.
it like, it is dried blood?
Yes.
It may be a warning then from whoever assailed Gressil.
Indeed.
Whether they killed the mage or hold him captive, we still need him to return home.
Should we go towards the mountain and the castle?
That seems the only way back to where we need to go.
Well, there was no castle, sorry. That's not a thing.
Mountains to the north, yeah.
Yeah, just a mountain to the north. But as you do proceed, you can see what looks like a rock kind of outcropping up ahead. Looks like a series of boulders, but on closer inspection, it looks more like there are people kind of standing around that are boulders. When you get closer still, you can see that they appear to be petrified people who have been broken apart, fallen over. One's kind of raising his hand to the sky like he was casting a spell, and you can see that in his hand there is a scarf kind of fluttering in the wind. And it looks like they're all kind of pointedly, at least the parts that remain standing, because you can see one's like kind of bisected at the waist. The body portion's kind of fallen over and broken, but it looks like the legs were kind of walking northwards. Looks like everyone is kind of headed, or at least looking, northwards.
Ominous.
Seems to be the way to go. That's where everyone's headed.
Eyes up, chaps. It would seem that these poor folks are too stoned, and we should watch for ourselves.
420 blaze it. Woo! They're too stoned. All right. As you kind of continue along the stream here, up ahead, you can see a bit more kind of rise or swell up on the ground here. You see a very massive statue or petrified being. It appears to be the size of what you would all recognize as a titan. And it stands there. Looks like it's preparing to swing its sword, but it is facing towards you. You're looking on it front on. And it stands on the northern side of the river as the river kind of bends in that direction. You know what? I'll just go ahead and throw you on a map and then start explaining it. Oh, that's
What
that's
kind of creature
that's
would
not-
have the power to turn to stone?
not supposed to be there.
Oh, no.
That wasn't supposed to be there.
Really? Who that guy?
So you would see that the path that you're kind of walking on kind of rises up onto a cliff, and you can see that there's a bridge that crosses over the riverway. Up ahead, you can see what appears to be kind of a dais and like a shrine or altar, and there's an individual standing within, a book in one hand, and his hand kind of moving over the book as he's performing some sort of ritual spell. The individual appears to be young, wearing kind of blue robes, and he has a green scarf around his neck. And then, across from him, across the river, up on the massive Titan statue, standing kind of on the elbow of the arm preparing to swing, is a man who's standing on one foot, his other foot kind of raised up in kind of a stance, and his hands kind of like placed before him in a stance, as like in kind of a meditative kind of stance. The man directly in front of you appears to be kind of a very young version of the man who you've seen decapitated and then ripped into pieces, and would immediately be recognized by Wandre as Cardiff, a younger version of Cardiff. The man across from him, on all descriptions that you can kind of muster, doesn't really seem to be too recognizable. He just appears to be a man from the Isles of the Blue Dragon, or Seiryu, who is in some sort of meditative stance and is apparently in opposition to the mage that stands before you. All about the field here, there are warriors, Aeten warriors, who appear to have been frozen out and were heading towards the center, where Cardiff is located, and have been kind of locked in stone. Some of them have fallen and broken. Some of them remain standing. Some of their parts have fallen off. But yeah, that's what you see.
So the Seryujin is in some sort of warrior-like stance, almost monk-like, maybe?
I wouldn't say warrior stance. It's more of like a meditative stance.
Bartleby, I think he's doing yoga.
Perhaps it's Tai Chi.
Perhaps.
What
Right.
say ye we involve ourselves in this here predicament? Yeah?
As perhaps one of these men know where the direction Gressil headed, where he is.
Does only the fool know that this is Cardiff, or do the rest of us know that as well?
Again, you've seen Cardiff in two different states of being. His facial features are very similar, just much younger. Yeah, you'd be able to recognize him.
Well, if there's a Chronomancer here, it's possible that Gressil is nearby.
Okay. What do you do?
Bartleby, could that be Gressil? And I point to the person doing Tai Chi up on top of that statue.
Again, it just to kind of cut down on the very strange necessity to determine what it is. It's just a meditative stance.
Having fun. I don't think so. It does not look like the creature that we encountered before.
It looks like he's doing the crane, getting ready to kick somebody.
I would say the leg would be kind of tucked underneath the body, not out and prepared to do a very strange unbalancing kick.
So was this lotus pose?
No, lotus pose would be seated, right?
Is he standing?
Yeah, on one leg.
Mantis, perhaps? I didn't know. I've not studied these arts.
None of you
Physical
are
arts elude me.
none of you are martial artists. Why?
Doesn't matter. Let's approach the Chronomancer.
All right. The Chronomancer
That's a good
sees
plan.
the Chronomancer sees you approaching, still kind of waving his hand over his book, but then kind of takes you into stock and slams the book shut, and kind of looks to you all. Strange. Huh. What? Who are you? And how did you resist my spell?
Which spell did we resist? Because as far as I'm concerned, it's you who's the reason why we are here. No? I give him like a weird eye, like a.
He's
what's
kind
talking
of
about?
giving you a strange look too. So you're not with them.
I don't even know who you're talking about.
Looks to the others, and then looks to you, then looks back to the others. You're not with them at all, looking to Bartleby and asking him the question.
We've been dragged to several locations by the one who calls himself Gressil.
Right, so you're not with them.
Define them.
Gressil.
Gressil is not here.
It would seem, in fact, we are in search of him. He may, in fact, be our quarry.
This tongue is so limiting. What I mean to say is, do you serve the one that you would know as Gressil? Do you serve them?
No,
No.
not I.
No.
I serve no man. Or
Great.
woman. Or person.
Great.
Or thing.
Good. You see the man on the other side kind of slam his foot down and kind of drop into like a more restive stance. And he says out across the open plains, you can hear his voice in the wind. Do not trust him.
I I kind of want to trust him. You got reasons why I shouldn't.
Yes, he says, and as he says that, you watch as he kind of jumps, like the Matrix style kind of thing, up off of the arm, and fly kind of like, or more or less glide across the way, and kind of land about where you're at. Where you're at, I'm assuming, is kind of here-ish by now. And
Sure.
as he kind of hits there, he walks over to you, Wandre, and kind of has his hand like this, like he's prepared to do something to you. Do you attempt to resist him, or do you allow him to do what he's doing? Muted.
You're muted.
Sorry, right? I forgot about that. I have a free use of Misty Step. As soon as he tries to touch me, I'm just gonna apparate behind him.
And he says, I cannot show you if you do not allow... And he seems to be talking to you, like as if you were there. Kind of, you have an inkling that he is aware that you're behind him. He says, and he's kind of still holding his hand like this, I cannot show you unless you allow me to show you.
Yeah, you shouldn't just touch a chap without asking.
You asked me to.
I asked for reasons. I didn't ask for your fingers on my face, but alright, you can show me.
He snaps around and kind of immediately slams his two fingers right onto your forehead. You can feel divination magic kind of pour into your head, raw divination. And you watch as kind of time in the space reverts backwards. You watch as you are all walking back up the way that you came, and everything kind of reverts back very quickly to a point where the mage is kind of still twiddling over his book. There's a point in that where you watch him cast something, cast something, and a burst of this kind of whitish energy kind of erupts from him. But as it's going backwards, you're watching the stone, you're watching the burst go backwards, right? So you're watching the stone people no longer be stone people, and the ones that fell over kind of back up and become people again, and they all appear to be rushing towards the mage on the dais. Angrily and yelling out battle cries. Then you feel the divination magic pulled out of your head as this mystic pulls his hand away from your brow. You see?
It felt slightly violating, but I only have more questions.
He shrugs, turns and looks to Cardiff, and Cardiff looks at him. The time it took you to do that, I learned a lot more, Master Huli. I know that I brought these ones here. Huli says, not you. But you. Cardiff grins. Yes, me. They're all me. I am one. See, that's the thing that most people don't seem to understand. There is a oneness in it all. Huli shakes his head. There cannot be. You are split. You've broken yourself, your soul, and the world. He turns and looks back to you all. In sooth, you were summoned by him, but not him. You know what I mean, he says as he looks to Bartleby.
One version of him.
And then
Bartleby.
the young Cardiff yells... Hold on. In response to that, Bartleby saying that, young Cardiff starts yelling, throws his book down on the ground. They're all me! They're all me! And he kind of points at you. Remember it! Kind of angrily, raises his hand like this. The book flies back up into his hand, and he flips it back open. Don't disturb me.
Bartleby, I have figured it out. That was Kung Fu magic. It was not Tai Chi.
For fuck's sake.
I think you might be right, Venkar.
And it appears our friend Cardiff has broken himself into many parts. How can we help? I look over at whatever that guy's name was, the Tai Chi dude.
So he's been addressed as Huli by Cardiff. Huli kind of turns and looks to Venkar, and he says, in this place, the only thing that I can foresee is killing him, but I cannot do so. I am a follower of the eight-spoked wheel. I represent the center of the wheel. I cannot take another's life. It is beyond the human condition to do so. It is wrong. A violation.
But are you telling us to do it for you?
I am not. You must walk your own path. I should not be able to give you anything besides knowledge.
Why must he die? Why were these warriors and this titan so bent on killing him that they would allow themselves to be turned to stone?
Because what he seeks to do here.
What does he seek to do? Be straight with us.
I will. So, in this place, there is a great power that resides in the mountain, and he gestures to the north. Man, elf, giant, titan, Goliath, dwarf, all have come together to know a time of peace here. That which sleeps in the mountain threatens that peace. This brat, Cardiff kind of slams the book shut and kind of grips the spine of it. You can hear kind of like the crack of the leather as Huli addresses him as such. Intends to bring it from its slumber and draw it to the lands to the south.
What is this creature that sleeps and threatens peace?
It is known as Worldbreaker, but that is the only knowledge that I have of it in your tongue. If you speak my language, I can certainly tell you more.
What is your language?
I speak the language of the Sayer Yujin.
I communicate telepathically with him. I say, speak it here in your mind, and I will understand.
You see him kind of nod his head, and then you hear the Worldbreaker, and you see instead visions of what he speaks of in books kind of being flipped open and kind of moved by him at some point in his past. He seems to tether to your telepathy stronger than you anticipated, which designates this individual as not a monk or a martial artist, but as a scion. And you would feel him kind of use that telepathic link to allow for you to glean more information. Everything you're seeing as the pages rush by is kind of translated in your mind as well, and you would realize that what he speaks of is a being known as the Tarask, a massive creature which is capable of an insane amount of destruction. There's one that resides within this world, and the last time that you can recall in your history that the creature was unleashed was well in the times of the Lost Aeons, before the elves came. I would say that in your knowledge space, Eslo, you would probably understand that it's believed widely that the Lachey, the earliest elves, the most powerful, potent fae of the elven lineage, were the ones that put the Tarask into a slumber that was unbreakable.
Upon hearing that Cardiff wants to essentially unleash the Tarask, although as those eyes kind of go wide, his hands ignite with like green energy. Kind of looks around. He says, "I don't know any of you that well, but we must kill him. He means to unleash the Tarask. This world will end."
Well, but what if he and maybe we could end the world breaker?
Huli kind of shrugs.
Why would we risk waking it from its endless slumber to take on that task?
You see Cardiff.
Rather keep him sleeping.
You see Cardiff start to walk down from the dais as Wandre is about to retort. He says, "Because nothing should be forced into submission."
Just as you forced those who you turned to stone into submission?
I did not force them into submission. I bested them in combat. They're dead. They're not servants, he says as he walks over to the closest one and just shoves it off the cliff. You hear a loud as that person is now probably never coming back.
Eslo, my friend, I do not think it is wise to try to destroy Cardiff, because there are so many over so many times and space. It is a fool's errand. I think we are being pointed in a direction of folly.
Cardiff grins at Venkar and then kind of walks back up onto the dais. If you give me a few moments, it won't be long here. You don't have to watch the destruction. I can send you along your way.
There are many Cardiffs across many worlds, as we know. Some have done great good, some great evil. This seems to be one that is about to do great harm to this world.
Huli kind of gives you like a solemn nod as you say that, Eslo.
I say, I am no hero, but I value my own life above anyone else's. And if he unleashes the Trask, I will die, and so will all of you.
Cardiff looks to Eslo and says, "No, I will send you away. Only this world has to die."
What has put you on such a dark path? Why does this world have to die?
It's hard to explain. And really, I don't have much time for it.
Who are you to make such choices?
Who's anyone to make choices at all?
These are all fair points we're all making, gents, but maybe we should all just take a step back from this situation and maybe, I don't know, not risk a whole world. I mean, Cardiff, I want to like you. I really do. I want to give you a chance. You did turn all these people to stone, which was probably in self-defense, so I'll give you that. But do we need to risk it all? That's my big question.
There's no risking it all. It all isn't a thing. He shakes his head. And for a second, you kind of see like this after tracer of him as he kind of moves to one of the pillars. Kind of like an echo that kind of stays present where he was as he reaches over and touches the pillar. If you'd like to make an Arcana check, you can.
Oh, nice. 25.
Okay. 25 is pretty good. Anybody else want to roll it?
Haha, critical fail.
Yep.
I am a dum-dum.
You have no idea about Chronomancer. 20 is pretty good. Not good enough. And one from you, good sir. For Wandre. 21's not good enough either. So Bartleby, you would recognize this as kind of restricted magic from your age. What he's basically done is created a temporal echo of himself. If someone were to engage him at this point, he could revert back to that state immediately.
And that state being...
when he was standing there in the center of the place, he would revert back to his physical state at that point. And so he walks over to the pillar and kind of touches it idly, and he says, "This isn't real. This timeline isn't real. This doesn't happen. It's never happened. None of what you've seen has happened in your lifetimes. You don't exist. You do not matter." Huli kind of looks at you and says, "Your nihilism is an interesting tack, but I see what I see. I feel what I feel. Everything exists. Just because your high-minded ideals on what does exist because of what you've seen potentially exists doesn't change what happens here and in the now."
Cardiff, my friend, the Master's got points.
He has no idea what he's talking about. He's never slipped into the time stream. He's never seen what can happen, what has happened, what cannot happen, the has-nots, the never-wers. You're a never-were, Wandre. You see his eyes kind of flare blue for a second as he kind of says your name, like he's pulling the knowledge from somewhere else.
And what's that supposed to mean? I'm quite real myself, and I quite am.
The world you know doesn't even exist here. He gestures to empty space and says, "Corson here." "Oh, Corso isn't here." And kind of shakes his head. "Regardless, There are others who exist in places in time and space that are similar to your own but are different. If things happen differently, they change everything, since the inception of time itself.
And why does that not make it all real?
No, it makes nothing matter. Nothing, absolutely nothing matters.
That's an interesting take on it.
There are an infinite number of you, and yet there are none of you.
You are lost.
I mean,
You're
that
lost
sounds
in
like a great
madness.
hobby.
I am lost.
Cardiff, young lad, why do you waste your time on this foolish endeavor? Why don't you just go do something else? Why bring pain and damage upon this world by releasing a giant creature that will do nothing but good, nothing but evil to the good that is here?
Because
I think this is below you.
Because this has never happened, because I have never made it happen. I have investigated all of the possibilities that could have happened to Urs to stop this blight, this thing you call existence. Looking to Huli kind of angrily, and then looking back to you, Vangar. If I bring about the Tarask here and aid it in specific ways, then it will destroy this place. It will rectify the mistakes that were made by our forebears.
You're looking for a hard restart? Is that what you're talking about?
I don't care about it being restarted. I care about a termination. This place is a mistake. It shouldn't exist. He says as he points back up. He points up to the sky. You can just barely make out the moon in the afternoon sky, and the umbra behind it, which is the second moon, kind of dark, that sometimes falls behind the normal Statia, the normal moon. And he says, "Look, you can see the Dargian Rift from this point. You can see in the heavens where shadow takes us. We're too close to the center of it all, and yet so far away. We can't join others. We cannot be with others among the stars. We cannot exit this place. We're stuck here, damned forever. There's no point to it. Even in your far utopian future, Wandre, you would see that there's nothing to it besides studying the past and keeping tabs on what has happened. In Rakash's past, he could see into the future and could not make out to what I have already determined.
How many souls reside in this mistake of a place you wish to erase?
What are souls if nothing more than just magic turned awry, given eyes to see and thoughts to process? Petty things, squabbles.
Bartleby's eyes flare with anger when you say that.
They matter not. All of the pen ink you have wasted on pages, all it does is transcribe nothing happening at once.
Or they say never meet your heroes.
Gain inspiration.
There you go, nice job.
I literally said that about Mickey in our Friday Game One. Hilarious. I love that phrase. But yeah, so Huli kind of looks to you all. He'd probably actually, if you said that in character, Huli would laugh. Because he's a pretty...
I definitely did.
He's a pretty joyful monk, or scion, and he kind of clenches his fists. Do you see? I am bound by my oath, by my position in the wheel. He, despite being the anathema of life as it stands, I cannot raise a fist to him.
Cardiff, as far as I understand it, you yourself are responsible for what you referred to as a utopian future that I come from. And sure, maybe there's only, the past to study, but what there really is this life to live. And while the past is quite interesting, it's life being lived. That's really the whole point of it all. And you created a time where life could flourish freely through your machinations. So I would say, why not just focus on whatever does that?
Because it doesn't matter. I've looked into your future and beyond. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't delay anything. What it does is allow for us to continue and continue and continue on to a point when this entire place that we stand upon and every single path that could be walked, every choice that could be walked, ends up nothing more than a fleeting speck of shadow magic ripped asunder. That's it. That's what you have to look forward to. He points back up at the Umbra. The rift.
Ugh, it's not so bad. Trust me. You lacked vision, child.
I lack a lot of things. The one thing I do not lack is vision.
If only you had but the eye to see it. There are things beyond this veil that would terrify you. But you are too cowardly and lack the ambition to seek that knowledge. You'd rather destroy the world, destroy the universe, than explore it. A coward and a fool.
If you could show me how I would abscond from this place, I would do so gladly.
Have you considered other planes?
You're not understanding what I'm telling you. We're bound here. We're bound here in our tight-knit circle of elemental and energy planes. The Feywild, a tracer, an echo, a shadow of us that follows behind, that's globbed onto us because of greedy elf's desires of mortality and the fundamental nature of choice, decision-making. To be messed with. We're nothing more than an experiment to the Fey. And the astral sea that leaks in from beyond. In times beyond this one, an organization known as the Grey Order seeks to keep all within sight. But they don't understand that no one can escape. The second you exit the veil of our realm, the crystal sphere, you enter into the phlogiston, which melts you down to nothing in seconds. And just outside of our realm, just outside, horrors that you cannot imagine, he says as he points to Eslo, would devour your mind and soul. You tell me, let me go out into the worlds beyond. I cannot. I have no means of doing so. The one thing I would require for that to be the case no longer exists, never existed, has never existed, will never exist.
This is all quite perturbing.
Exactly, he says. You're understanding. And Huli kind of shakes his head. You're looking at it far too pointedly. You're not paying attention to what you're saying. You're not focusing on the condition.
I think I understand what you are saying, Cardiff. I think you need to come with us, and we can venture and find how to escape where we are now. With your time and space knowledge and our raw power, together we can do this.
You see him
We
kind
could
of.
rule the universe.
You see him kind of like look to you, and it's almost like a, yeah. And then you see him kind of go, no, 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 and his eyes kind of flare blue for a second, and he shakes his head. No, Benkar, this has happened before. We've done this before. We've played this game. All that happens is we end up dying in the phlogiston.
So as far as you're concerned, it's all fixed, yeah?
No, nothing is fixed. I can change it here. But the only way that it can be changed to a point where it no longer harms anyone, no longer harms me, is to end it here.
But if you ended it all, it would be fixed, no?
Ultimately, yes. In both senses of the word.
Right, but what if I I'm a fan of the whole, like, anything is possible kind of thing, you know?
Well, I guess you'd be correct, and anything would be possible, including your absolute removal from temporal reality. Let me ask you this. What if, he points to one of the statues, that is one of your great ancestors? And as he says it, he kind of waves his hand like that, and you watch kind of a shriek of force magic cut from his hand and slash the body in half, causing the statue to fall apart and break. He kind of, as it kind of slams there, and there's kind of like a quiet moment, he says, "It's not. You'll be fine. But what if it was? What if my actions here, my decisions, changed your existence?"
And you're telling me that it just doesn't.
What I'm saying to you, what I'm saying to you is, these choices are being made outside of your reality. What you have come to decide as being you liking things and you deciding on things isn't your choice at all. You were created because of choices that were made before you, as were you and you and you, as was I. The difference between you and me is I've come to understand that and now realize that my choices can affect others as well. More so than yours, because I can go back and make choices in the past. I can make choices in the future. I can make choices in the in-betweens.
Who are you to make choices for others?
Who is anyone to make choices?
We make choices for ourselves, put ourselves on the paths we choose. It's not anyone else's choice who lives, who dies.
Look, Bartleby existed before you. He decided to put magic to paper. And in doing so, specifically made it possible for... He looks at Ezla and goes, "Well, not you. You're... Nah." He looks to Venkar. "You," and then gestures to Andre, "and you, to take up those stories and take up that pen to paper and understand it. You've done nothing more than live his life but through book. If he didn't choose to do that, you would have had to make choices on your own. His choices affected your life. Period."
You make a very fair point, but my entire life is not the subject of, Bartleby's decisions. It has only been merely influenced by it.
But what if he had not done what he did? Would your world even be like it is, or would it be more like, "Oh, he's not here"? He gestures towards where he gestured before when he was talking about Corso.
There will always be scholars to record magics and histories. If Bartleby did not put ink to script, another would have.
Would they have?
Yes.
Or what if Bartleby did not defend the libraries, and they were torched by the servants of Lothgrain?
You are paralyzed by what ifs.
You are paranoid.
I'm not
Child.
paralyzed by what ifs. I understand that the only reason that you exist in the way that you do is because of those what ifs. And he gestures to Wandre, and the reason that he exists differently than it gestures towards where Corso was, exists differently than him in the same time frame, is because of the choices that were made in the present. Would you want the suffering of Corso's life, but the pleasantries of Wandre's to exist simultaneously? Or would you like there to be one specific and only timeline where everyone is at peace?
I'm not too sure, to be honest with you. I kind of feel like that's not something that any of us should be deciding.
There's no light without the shadow. There's no good without the bad, or else they lose meaning.
Good, bad, there's no... It doesn't exist! And Huli says, incorrect. The 8 points of the wheel depict good, evil, law, and chaos. Do not speak to me that they do not exist. They are real.
Seems we have our own choice in this present moment, eh? He gestures to the other wizards.
Everyone at that point can make a religion check.
We're losing our religion.
You're gaining it if you get the roll right.
I got a 15.
15.
Well, that's the difficulty class, so we're doing good so far. I think Smokey is the only one who wouldn't get it. Unless you want to spend your inspiration.
Well, don't I get Jack of all trades added to that? So
I think it's already in the math.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's 6. Because it'd be your intelligence modifier, which is 4.
Yes.
Yeah, +2. Yeah, that's half your proficiency. So yeah, it's already in there.
That's okay.
So you would all know, as he's kind of talking, kind of sparks into your head, the 8 spokes of the wheel. Huli is the name of the progenitor of a religion you recall, philosophy you recall from the Third Era, known as the Huli Ruxui. It is a study and tenement of there being 8 specific paths to life, each one represented by one of the alignments, with the exception of neutral, true neutral, which is the center spoke of the wheel. And according to the tenements of this philosophy, neutrality is where you want to be. You want to be at a point of perfect balance. So not good, not evil, not lawful, not chaotic. Somewhere in the in-between.
Yeah, like me. Wait, what?
As he kind of mentions it in that kind of focused tone, you kind of recall a bit more about that.
I kind of speak to the other mages in our collective mind. Say this Cardiff wants to throw seems like the universe out of bound, the multiverse, all of our wherever we all come from out of bound. Just don't think we'll be changing his mind.
I'm very confused by all of this. I know Cardiff to be a hero, and well, now I'm kind of like, he's kind of a dick.
You're right.
How many tyrants? Go ahead, Kevin.
We have met several versions of Cardiff here. Some of them have been headless, and some are good and some are evil, so I'm not sure what to do here, because I believe he is exceedingly powerful, and I do not know if our might can match his. I was hoping we could talk him down. Maybe we could have a fiddle play off, like maybe our bard friend, Wandre. Maybe you could play a fiddle and beat him, and then send him off to, somewhere where you go when you lose a fiddle.
Do you think he will respect the musical duel? The terms?
Why?
Probably not.
I don't believe Cardiff is the type to entertain musical duels. But he is one to entertain a battle of wits. He loves an argument, that is for sure.
My friends, we stood toe-to-toe with a god mere hours ago. This is a man. I believe it. He is flesh and blood like any other.
You're right, Eslo. How many tyrants believe that with a snap of the fingers they can create peace, and in doing so destroy?
The Huli, he is his religion is one of peace. He goes against Cardiff. This led me to believe that going against him is the right path, and at least for our own self-preservation.
Maybe, and I mean, I have nothing but speculation here. It is possible that we're here to teach Cardiff a lesson. I'm not sure if anything that happens here really, really matters at all, or if he'd even learn from it. But maybe we need to teach him the error of such a way.
There are several ways to teach, my friend. With words or with actions.
Sometimes I just like embarrassing people, and I might do that.
You all hear a voice in the conference call that's not one that you were expecting. You hear Huli's voice say, "If you are prepared to assault him, I can make the matter easier for you. I cannot harm him. but I can open him up to be less potent. Muted.
You're muted, Steve.
Oh, well, that's definitely a boon.
You realize that your current power is apparently been invaded by Huli ever since you linked up to him in the first place. Basically, you made a phone call with him, and you've just left the phone on. Like, he's still on the call.
Hang up, Mom.
How'd you get this number?
How'd you get the...
I thought you said this line was secure.
I thought it was. Start hitting my head.
What are his weaknesses? Do you know any?
Well, I can tell you. I can make him tell us right now. And I'm actually going to. I'm going to say, Cardiff, I'm real sorry to do this to you, and I want to cast my.
As you prepare to cast the spell, you watch as Cardiff kind of turns, his eyes kind of flaring blue as if he's prepared to kind of counter. You then see Huli kind of just become like a flash, move over to Cardiff. You hear a loud popping sound as he kind of slams his two fingers into his ribcage. Then he kind of hits him in the chest with his elbow and then snaps his hand up and kind of like snaps here on his brow. The second he does that, you kind of see Cardiff kind of like fall back and kind of lock temporally for a second. And then you watch as Huli kind of snaps back to his original position in like a martial stance. You then finish what you were saying.
So I pull out one of my special bard weapons.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, bard instruments rather. They're not weapons, they're instruments. And I'm going to cast Wandre's Folly of Fools.
Okay.
And with the bard weapon, he will have disadvantage on the save.
Yep. All right. So he fails because I think a 6 would probably fail.
Yeah, 6 would definitely fail.
Cue the fight music. All right. Okay. Yeah. So he kind of like is kind of locked for a second, and then kind of snaps back downwards, and he says, "My greatest achievement is also my lowest point. I broke the Arch of Time." And he grins. Roll initiative.
Finally.
You should have brought the fiddle.
I got a fiddle, don't worry.
Oh yeah, let's get all the ones out of the way now.
Hey.
And we didn't take a short rest, did we?
You could have. That's fine.
Oh,
No,
God.
but
Here,
I'm
I'm gonna spend some. Let me
Yeah,
spend
we
some
did,
hit
we
die
did.
before I lose them.
Where are our characters?
What? Down at the bottom.
Where
There
are
should-
tokens?
We would technically be up near Huli, right? So should we move our... Okay, you got it.
All right. I need one more initiative roll. Oh, you didn't select your token. Hold
Yeah,
on.
I'm sorry, I forgot to click myself. My bad.
No worries. Let me check your token.
All right. Enough hit die. Okay. Okay, feeling a little better. 13 hit dice. Gotta use some.
And
Wait,
you
are
have
we
a-
allowed to spend?
Yeah, you can go ahead and as if you took a short rest beforehand.
Yeah, we had a long
That was really
debate. It was essentially a short rest.
You guys had talked about it before the game, and we just kind of rushed through it like it happened, so it's fine.
Oh, you guys get an extra D6 by the way because of Song of Rest.
Yeah, so roll a d6 and add the result to your hit points. All right. On initiative 30, I don't think anybody's beating that.
Oh, no.
You watch as Huli kind of moves across the field of battle like a flash again, kind of just, and kind of stand next to Bartleby, and he kind of holds his position kind of close to you, almost kind of like entering your space, your personal space, a little awkwardly, but he kind of holds his position there. Doesn't say anything, just kind of locked there in that position.
Cool.
Wandre, you're up. And he is currently in a state of telling you his greatest follies and the like. So you have advantage on any wisdom, insight, wisdom, perception, and attack rolls made against him.
Okay. I think I would like to cast Shillelagh on my quarterstaff.
Don't get too close.
Just in case. And I'd like to bane him.
Okay. So you watch him kind of like focus. You see kind of a glyph, the symbol of Wandre, kind of appear above him and kind of manifest. And you watch as the bane locks, and his eyes kind of close, and he kind of smiles a little wider. He goes, "Interesting technique, Master Huli." Bartleby, you're up.
Fireball.
Okay. Are you detonating it kind of away from the group and kind of over him?
Mm-hmm.
All right. You watch as it explodes. You watch as the fire takes him and burns. Go ahead and roll the damage out.
35.
Okay. You watch as he kind of gets slammed in the back by it and kind of falls forward. His scarf seems to be kind of ignited on flame, and he's kind of like grasping at the back of his head because of the burning wound. Benkar?
Benkar the Dark will grasp his staff and point it toward young Cardiff and say, "Now you will die," and shoot lightning bolt out of his staff.
A lightning bolt goes flaring through. Go ahead and roll the damage out. And kind of gets rended by it, kind of falling back. The fire still kind of singeing at him. He seems to be kind of in a right state, his mortal body seemingly kind of well wounded. Blood now kind of draining out from his side. Esla?
Oh wait, it was supposed to be level 5. Can I get 2 more levels of damage?
You're going to go ahead and roll me 2d6. So 30.
Sorry, I had to look that up.
Okay. No worries. Eslo, you're up.
Eslo will take out a feather jar filled with a tentacle and an eye stalk, and he'll cast Summon Aberration.
Okay. What aberration are you summoning?
Star Spawn.
Hold on.
And as it's...
Is it a star spawn? What type of star spawn does it say?
So it's called the Aberrant Spirit. That's what you're looking for.
All right.
And then it just gains the traits of the creature that I chose. So because I chose Star Spawn, it'll have like an aura or something. It says on the creature sheet.
Got it.
So as the portal opens, and this like tentacled horror pulls itself through, as it kind of looks, says, "You wish to see what was beyond the Dargian Rift? Allow me to show you."
You see him kind of giggling. That's from the far plane, still within our sphere, fool. And as he says that, he goes, "Ah!" And you see blood kind of come out of his lips. Okay, so it's on the table, and
So it'll act right after I do.
I'm giving you control of the sheet. Hold on. You should have control of that guy. And the sheet should be visible to you now.
Yes. Thank you.
No problem.
Let's see. This is medium or large? Whatever. Yeah, so I'll just have it charge up, and it's a star spawn. So at the start of its turn, each creature within 5 foot of the aberration. So he needs to make a Wisdom saving throw.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the spell DC is 20.
Okay. Or
take 2d6 psychic damage.
Yeah, you see the influence of it kind of entering into his mind. Roll your 2d6.
Ooh, not too great.
All right.
And then it will make a psychic slam attack.
Okay.
So only a 10.
So he has advantage. So 19.
So 19. So he's going to take. Do you want me to roll or just do the average damage?
Either way.
All right. So he's going to take.
I got a psychic slam when I went to my therapist.
11. So yeah, he'll take 11 damage. 11 psychic damage.
Okay. So bashes into him, and you can see like the pulse of the darks, like the star spawn energy, kind of pulse through Cardiff. But you can also see that his smile doesn't go away throughout.
Oh, sorry. This thing has multi-attack. So one more psychic slam.
Go with it.
That'll be a miss.
There's no
12.
There's no helping that one, and it works in narratively. So smack, and he kind of smiles and kind of leans back, and then as the creature is about to kind of come in with the next one, you watch Cardiff's form kind of start twitching around, moving through all the spaces he's moved in the last minute or so, until it reverts back to that part where he temporally locked. As it hits that point, you can see that all the wounds that have been dealt to him, every single bit of damage, is just erased. And then he kind of grins. You see him burst backwards as like a blue shape. If you're familiar with Overwatch, he basically tracer dashes away from you and kind of hangs in the air for a second before tracer dashing again, ending up on the elbow where the monk first started. He grins and then he points directly at the center of the dais that he was standing on, and as his action, he says, "So then let it begin, betrayers. I bring you on a great quest, and you try to slay me?" The sky above goes black, like the sun just stops being there, and he's kind of focused and kind of holding his finger on that point. All right. Huli kind of looks to you, Bartleby, and says, "I don't, I don't know what he's doing."
Oh boy. Is that space in the center necessary for the ritual, the circle?
I don't.
Okay.
You can use your action to make an Arcana check to try and glean that.
Okay. Maybe I will.
Okay. Go ahead and roll Arcana.
What? But it's not my turn.
Oh,
yet.
you're right. It's Wandre's, because Huli's not doing anything.
Okay, so I have I have 3 free uses of fly from my instruments, so I want to fly closer.
You would cast Fly as your action then.
Yes.
Okay. So, and then
I'm going to fly over, yeah.
you got a 90-foot speed, or 60-foot?
I believe it's 60.
Okay.
And, let me just see how far I am. Okay, I want to just hold a counterspell. Can I do that?
No. Counterspell is a reaction, so you can still cast Counterspell as a reaction. That's fine. You don't have to hold it. But you use your action to cast Fly. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, you can still counterspell, but right, the thing I said.
Right.
Bartleby, you're up.
Yep. So as a bonus action, we will conjure my spell book.
Okay.
And then I have a question.
Yeah.
Does Mystic Conflux, would it help me? So would the circle be considered an object or device? The magic object?
There's a dais with 7 pillars, and kind of, it seems to be made out of stone. It looks like it's dwarven stone that has been kind of manifest there. And you can take that as an object if you so please.
Okay. Great. So that would give me advantage on the check if it applies. So I want to spend my action to investigate the magical nature of that space.
Sure. So go ahead and...
22.
So you would note that that is a binding circle. Magic that's been placed into the stone here seems to be present. It would seem that whatever is being bound by this stone is probably being bound by multiple stones based on its location and its kind of placement near the mountain. The 7 pillars around the dais appear to be designatory markers for the other 7 seals that hold the Tarrasque in the mountain. And your presumption is that this one probably falls to be the most southern of the markers. The other markers around the mountain would be at farther distances and away. But you would know that if one seal breaks, the other 7 will start to fall. So,
So destroying this seal is a very bad idea.
Yes.
Bolstering it is a good idea.
Correct.
Okay, so as a free action, can I say that to the other wizards?
Perfectly acceptable.
Great.
Venkar, you are up.
So protect this dais?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Would Venkar know with his staff that the wall of force can't go horizontal, right? It has to go vertical.
Wall of Force can go... Hold on.
I thought it had to go vertical. Do you know, Steve?
I think it's just like a rectangle.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's see. You can form it into a hemispherical dome or a sphere. So you could basically create like a bubble. You could create a square, like cube panel, like 10 by 10 by 10. You basically have a number of... you can form it into a sphere with a radius of 10 feet. So basically a 20-foot wide dome. Or you could form it into like a box with slightly smaller dimensions because the roundness obviously omits some space therein. But yeah, you could box it in if you wanted to. But if you were going to do that, I would say a wall of force in the spherical matter would probably be best. Because you could center it on it and its radius would be perfectly clear to kind of create a bubble on that. But doing so, how far up did you fly?
I would say I'm probably about 20 feet up.
Then you'd be underneath it. So yeah, you'd be fine. If you place the bubble, the only thing you'd be sealing in there would be the spawn.
Venkar will try that. He'll try to put a bubble over the altar and then he'll move.
Okay. Wall of Force seems to be the MVP for this campaign series, by the way.
For sure.
Yeah. The wall.
Let's see. Let me find my spells. Spell bubbles. I know I've got spell bubbles. Yep. 20 radius. Okay, hold on. Does that work for you? Okay. Actually, I would say because of the nature of it being off the cliff, I'm going to go ahead and do... Nope, that's not a good idea. I'm going to say that it's going to be smaller because you'll have to wrap it under the cliff. Does that make sense?
Yep, makes sense.
but you should still be able to kind of get it to cover everything. Okay, cool. Perfect. Venkar's done. Ezla, you're up. There's now a wall of force in between you and him, though, by the way.
Yeah, so I can't pass. I can't pass through it, right?
Right.
That's fine. I didn't need to concentrate on that anyway. Let me see if I can see.
Are you not?
If there's a wall of force preventing it from moving.
Oh, wait, sorry. You don't have to concentrate on it, is what you said.
No, I do. It's a concentration spell.
Are you dropping it?
I'm deciding.
Okay.
Just want to make sure I have line of sight on this guy. Is this edge here blocking my sight?
No.
Okay.
The wall of force is not blocking your line of sight. It's blocking your line of effect. So if you're casting a spell that would need to travel, like Eldritch Blast, it would.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure. So, okay, how about here?
There you go.
Seems perfect. Okay, well, see how long that holds. You know what? Let's get a taste for. I'm not really sure what he's gonna do. Let's go with the old tried and true.
Eldritch Blast.
Yeah, first, actually, yeah, I'll drop my concentration and I'll hex him instead.
Okay.
So hex on to Cardiff.
Okay.
And fire off some Eldritch Blasts, 3 of them, I believe. Let me just double check.
What's Hex's DC and what's the saving throw?
There's no DC, he just is hexed.
Okay, got it. Can you put that out there for me? Just want to make sure I remember it right.
Sure.
Because I think I know what it does. That's not right. I'll look it up. Keep going.
Yeah, so 3 Eldritch Blasts coming at you.
Go with it. So, you do a D6 extra necrotic damage whenever you hit. Got it. 23 hits, 16 misses, 16 misses.
Yeah, Bard's spell only lasted for 1 round, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so 1 hit. And then an extra D6.
Minus... Go ahead and give me all D6.
So 19 damage.
Okay. Alright. Slams into him.
And then for the rest of my movement, I will actually... It's probably a good idea to hide behind the wall of force.
Alright. Okay, it goes to his turn. You see him kind of reach out, but as he does so, his arm disappears. Then you watch as he pulls something, and that something appears to be an exact duplicate of him. And he stands next to him, and he looks at him and he says, "Can you deal with that?" "I sure can." And you watch as he starts casting a spell. You would recognize the spell as Dispel Magic being cast from the new Cardiff. Are you going to counterspell it?
Do it.
Yeah, I'm going to counterspell it.
I'm casting it at 5th level, so you're casting... Oh, sorry. You wouldn't know that part. Apologies. Rewind. What level of counterspell are you casting? You can only cast 3rd level spells, can't you?
That's right.
So it's going to be a 3rd level. You're going to have to roll a d20. Go ahead and give it to me.
Can others of us do that?
You're
as
not
a
within
reaction?
range.
Oh.
He's smart and he
I
played...
might.
Whoops.
That's not going to work. So you watch as the new Cardiff casts Dispel Magic, and you watch as the Wall of Force disappears. And then you see the other one go, "Thank you much." And then he says, "I'll be seeing you in a second." Should be. And then the real Cardiff, or the Cardiff that we've seen, kind of points back at the center of it and yells out. The night sky becomes even darker. And you watch as a magical glyph starts kind of appearing in the center, and runes appear on the circle itself. It starts glowing, and a pulse of kind of Chronomancer magic kind of generates outwards from it. It looks a little bit like... hold on a second. Oh man, I had this perfect, and it's not doing the thing I wanted it to. There we go.
Oh shit.
Oh no.
And you can start to see kind of cracks forming in the stone around it as well. Yeah, that's it for Cardiff's turn. Huli, not sure what to do. Just kind of holds his position close to Bartleby. He says, "I can defend you, but I cannot assault him." Wanderer, you're up.
Right. So, just two things real quick. Is my Bane still up on him, or did that end when he did that whole like time skip?
Bane still exists on him and the other one.
Okay, good to know. And then my other thing is I have Spell Driver, so I can actually cast 2 spells.
Well, you can cast a bonus action spell and a regular spell. You can't cast 2 action spells.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you have like a spell like Misty Step, normally the rule would be is if you cast Misty Step, your action can only be used to cast a cantrip spell. But because you have Spell Driver, you could cast whatever level spell you want as an action, because your 3rd level spell, so is the maximum you have. You can cast whatever spell you want as an action, and you could cast a bonus action spell.
Right. Okay. Understood. Okay, so I actually think I would like to use my Wondrous Cacophony on him.
Okay.
Again, through one of my instruments, I will use the lyre.
Which option are you selecting for Cacophony?
We're going to go with Terrified in this case.
Okay. All right. And Charisma saving throw, DC is...
17 plus he has disadvantage.
And he has a minus D4 for the roll. Okay. Can you go ahead and roll me that D4? And... Oh, what was this? Oh, yep. That'll do it. Just enough to get it in. Okay, so you see him kind of go, and then everything kind of blanks out for him. You would be aware that he is seeing you floating in the air as... Describe.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not too sure what he's afraid of. I guess, like...
Yeah, you can definitely play it to not knowing what you're looking like and just being a manifestation
I'm an
of his fears.
enigma.
Yeah. So yeah, he's definitely very concerned. And the interesting part about this is you also notice that the other one seems to be affected as well.
Oh.
You're confused by this for a second, but we'll get to it in a bit. Bartleby, you're up.
So would I know, based on my magic investigation of the circle, what's going on with its change?
Sure. You can... if you're trying to identify the matter, you could make another Arcana check. It would be your action to do so.
Okay. What if I were just to want to know if the wall of force, another wall of force, would do any good?
You're pretty sure you'd just be containing the problem. It'd be like putting... you can see that it's already affecting. If you put a wall of force on it, it's going to just contain what's going on in there.
Okay, so it wouldn't stop it, basically.
Yeah, it'd be like throwing a grenade into a toilet.
Yeah, that's really bad.
Or a cherry bomb, I guess, would probably be more appropriate.
Yeah.
My father-in-law did that the other day.
But yeah, if you want to investigate more as to what the nature of the magic is, you can certainly waste your action to do so. But
No, I'm not going to do that. Hold on.
Do you know if you could dispel it?
you can try.
Yeah, but he's Bartleby. He knows everything.
Yeah, let me try to dispel magic.
Yeah. So you certainly do not have a spell slot that's capable of dispelling it offhand. But yeah, you can go ahead and roll your d20 and add your intelligence modifier. And you have to meet the target number of 10 plus the spell's level.
Wait, so
You're going to roll a d20 and add your intelligence modifier, just intelligence modifier. And you need to surpass the target number, or the DC rather, of 10 plus the spell's level.
Okay.
Go ahead.
19 if it's a level 9 spell.
Ignore that. That was an accident.
No worries.
14.
It does not succeed.
Crap.
And I'll go ahead and give you a free Arcana check since you're trying to focus on ripping the spell apart.
Crit 31.
Yeah, the power that you're watching displayed before you is not a 9th level spell. It's a 10th level spell. He's rewriting the structure's very nature with a level 10 spell known as Chronomancer's Rend. He is basically rewriting the nature of the magic and structure by ripping it apart temporally.
We need to keep, so as a free action, we need to keep trying to dispel this magic. It's possible we can do it.
The older a thing is, the longer it takes to be ripped apart. Alright, Bartleby's done. Venkar, you're up.
Venkar, seeing Bartleby attempt to rend this magic useless, will take his clawed talons and wave them and draw the magic into himself as he dispels it.
Okay.
He would go, I end you.
So close. 5 feet.
We're just gonna nice at this problem, man. That's how you do it.
5 feet shy. 5 feet shy. Alright. Throw your dispel.
I happen to have a level 8 spell I'm going to sacrifice for this.
It doesn't change anything. It's still going to require a d20 roll plus your intelligence modifier. It does not behoove you to cast at a higher level.
Yeah, just cast
Okay,
it regular, and you got to get, well, at least previously you need at least a 10, right?
So it'd be 10 plus the spell's level.
Roll? I thought I rolled it. It didn't pop up.
No, you just cast the spell. Go ahead and roll a d20 and just add your intelligence modifier to it.
Alright. Hang on a second.
All right.
No way! I school you guys.
Nailed it.
You start cast. Let me double check and make sure you didn't. Yeah. Okay, you're good. Because sometimes people be rolling goofy. If they type roll 20 and it just puts the 20 there. But yeah, so you watch as Venkar kind of raises his hands up and starts maneuvering to the spell energy. Once he casts Dispel Magic, you watch as the glyphs around the outside, still glowing, but the strange rune kind of centered, stops pulsing outwards and starts kind of like energizing inwards. It seems to have stopped the rending, the Chronomancer's rending of the stone. All right, cool deal. Venkar, anything else for me?
I'm gonna say something cool, and then I'm gonna move. I'm gonna say, "We are done here now, young lad. Join us and help us to escape this place. Stop this madness."
Ezla?
So is the wacky stuff done?
So there's no longer like the energy in the center. There's two Cardiffs on the opposite side kind of standing there. We're still in combat mode, technically. But,
Okay, I just want to make sure that, like, so the thing isn't about to shatter or anything. He managed to stop
No. He managed to stop it.
We need to put up another wall of force and protect it.
I can take care of that, Bartleby. I'm gonna go stand in the middle of it. I'm gonna the font of energy that is in my staff kind of turns blue, I think, abjuration. And I'll cast a globe of invulnerability.
Okay. You see him kind of, as he's looking at you, he kind of raises his hand up like this and he says, "You are more than a nuisance. We don't have time for you." And as he says that, you watch as these massive beams of blue light appear around the mountain, presumably about where the other markings would be. And he says, "You think I came at this alone?" And you watch as both of them disappear.
How rude.
Do you guys have anything else you want to do in the combat order?
Run.
So did we just discern that he essentially, there's other ones, and he's just like, I'm just gonna go break those first, essentially?
Maybe he's breaking them all at the same time.
Oh, jeez. But he needs to get them all.
Do you want to take any combat actions during the next round? Because it is important when we get back to Cardiff's initiative.
I think Eslo should hold. Hold with what you are doing, Eslo, in case he comes back.
We need to break his concentration.
So what you would notice, this would be Bartleby, because you kind of designated a bit about the chronomancy. What you would notice is as he kind of makes his cocky statement, you watch as the real him, the one that's standing there, gets grabbed by a hand from thin air and pulled to the side, and you watch as the other one disappears as if it no longer exists. And they both vanish. There are no longer any Cardiffs there. during this round.
Would I be aware that whether or not my spell is still holding? Like, is he just blind?
If he still exists, then he would still be blind.
Did the hand that grabbed him, did it look like Gressil's clawed hand, or is it something completely different?
Oh, hold on. Sorry, I gotta save at the end of my turns, right? For
Oh, yes.
Okay,
yes,
hold on.
at the end of every turn.
And DC was 17,
Yes.
and I'm still baned. Roll D4.
Yes.
Actually, never mind. There's no way you can make me fail.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, you would know that the concentration broke because he resisted it, not because of tomfoolery of disappearing.
Understood.
He resisted it. But what you would note is the hand that comes out looks like Cardiff's hand that pulled him out to the side. If you'd like to make an Arcana check as your action, as you're trying to figure out what's going on, you can. But let's go ahead and just cycle through the initiative since you guys are having some issues self-governing. So there are no Cardiffs on the scene. Hooli is still in a defensive posture over Bartleby. It seems that he is guarding him specifically. Wandry, what do you do in this round where there is no Cardiffs?
I'm literally just confused, like flying, like just spinning left and right my little body. Like, I don't know where he went, and I'm just kind of confused on what to do.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just like, what the hell?
Okay. Bartleby?
So, the ritual circle is now, it's no longer glowing.
It is glowing. It doesn't have the center magic. I can't change
Okay,
the...
I understand. Okay. And from what I gleaned from my previous Arcana checks, it requires all of the circles be destroyed for the creature to be released, or only one?
One would cause a toppling effect.
Got it. So the toppling effect is probably happening.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It won't be instantaneous. It'll definitely take some time, but less time since he broke the other 6.
We may need to prepare to fight a Tarask.
Is there anything that I can do to prevent the toppling of this ritual circle?
You can think about it. It definitely would require some thought. You can go ahead and make an Arcana check as you kind of start puzzling that over. It's not something you would know to do instantaneously unless you happen to have an idea.
If I may, I would say it's useless because he could beat us to the other ones regardless and destroy it before we even get there.
Well, the other 6 are destroyed. What he's saying is if...
Can we keep this one from being destroyed and sort of hold the process
Right.
in check? 27.
All of them have to be broken for the trash to get free. He's asking if the other ones are broken and this one's falling apart, is there anything he can do on this side to help hold it? Yeah, sure. You would know that basically you're granted a single minute per spell level of any spell you would like to dump as an action. You cannot use your action this turn because you just use your action to make the check required. But basically you gain a minute of duration of it being held once it starts to fall, which it hasn't done yet. If you pump a spell slot into it, 1 minute per spell level.
It's a free action. I say that to the other wizards.
All right, Bartleby done.
So wait, what's the end? What's the end there though? Like, so let's say we put 100 minutes. Is after 100 minutes, is it just over? Or
Yep, then it falls apart.
Right. We have to solve the problem while we're holding it open. So basically, he's making us use our resources and then also fight Cardiff.
So just for clarification, I have spells from items, right? Would the spell slots of those items count, or does it have to be okay?
You're basically spending a spell or casting a spell and expending the spell slot with no effect. So if you are able to cast spells from a magic item, you can cast those spells for the level slot that it would equal. So if the item specifically says cast at its base level, that's what it'd be. But if the item says cast it at a higher level, it would be at whatever level it says it would be.
Understood.
Cantrips are 0, so they have no benefit.
So in order for him to start the breaking of this again, he has to cast a spell onto it. So should I hold this globe?
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, you have a global vulnerability on yourself. It's not over the
It's a 10 foot radius.
Yeah, I know, but it's bubbled around your feet. It's not like a dome. It's literally around you. You're like in a hamster ball. Globe.
Oh, I thought it would be like wide enough
It's
that it would like cover the diameter of this thing.
No. I mean, sort of, but it's still a globe, so the bottom portion is still rounded, so it can target it.
Are we're still using initiative order, correct?
Yep. And if that's the case, Venkar, do you have anything that you want to do?
Yes. Bartleby, are you saying we need to feed our spell power into this?
Yes, doing so will prevent its destruction for a time.
I hope you know what you're doing. And I would like, you would see like these like lines of black energy getting sucked from my clawed fingers into as I release a 5th level spell into it.
Okay. You spend a 5th level spell. You watch as the glyphs around it kind of ignite with a... What spell would you be utilizing? Not terribly important, just more for flavor.
A dimension door.
Okay, so you kind of watch as a... whatever I said, the color for conjuration. I know this.
I think it's orange.
Yeah, it is.
I think it's orange.
There's kind of an orange glow to the pulsing circle, and it kind of holds there. All right. Venkar done. Eslo, you're up.
So you said we get a minute per level of the spell slot?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 5 minutes. That's 50 rounds. So we should be good,
Yeah.
I think.
A lot of time.
So I guess I'll just ready a spell to kick this guy's ass when he shows up, because he's going to come back and try to break it.
Okay, you're going to have to drop your Globe of Invulnerability to be able to cast out of it.
Oh, I thought I could cast out of it, only things can't cast into it.
Any spell of 5th level or lower cast from outside the barrier can't affect creatures or objects within it. Similarly, the area within the barrier is excluded from areas affected by such spells.
I'm Hammond. I shoot in the ball.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can't cast out of a Globe of Invulnerability, though.
Oh, I thought I could.
Can't affect, even if the spell is such a spell can target creatures, objects within the barrier, but the spell has no effect on them. Similarly, the area within the barrier is excluded from areas affected by such spells.
Yeah, so if you like detonate a fireball beside me, I'd still be protected.
Yeah, stop it.
Wow, those are some nasty cats.
Yeah, that boy is a bad cat. Let's see. He attacked our cat Mittens. She doesn't like it. Hold on a second. That wording is super weird. Any spell of 5th level or lower cast from outside the barrier, but it doesn't say anything about spells cast from inside the barrier. I guess so. Yeah. I'll research that later. But yeah, I guess you can cast spells.
Yeah, I'm Hammond. Anyways, so that's the case. Yeah, when I will ready a spell to try to just get him when he comes back. Let's go with a...
Oh, yeah, okay. I'm thinking of a different spell. That's fine.
I'll just... Yeah, you know what? Yeah, ready some Eldritch Blasts for when he comes back.
Okay. Sure. So you would witness him being pushed into reality by an unseen hand, just as he pushed the other one away. And you see him step back out onto the thing. The more acute Bartleby of you would note that he grabbed himself from 6 seconds in the future to allow him to be in 2 places at once. And then both of them didn't exist for a single round in between. And then he manifested fully at the end there. Which is a Chronomancer's class trait, but it's also a epic level spell. And yeah, he kind of turns to look at you as he manifests. Go ahead and throw your Eldritch Blast. Hit.
Pew, pew, pew. So, a 7 and a 17.
All right. Smash into him. He kind of annoyed, kind of looks to you. You don't. You didn't get the point. You're still fighting me. He says as he's slightly wounded.
Yeah, you're lame. You want everyone to die. Blah blah blah.
You're so edgy with your cool end. Of the
I'm
world.
not trying to end the world, you dork. Cool guy, Cardiff.
All right, so I would like to spend my turn pulling out my Anstruth harp and spending a 8th level control weather spell into the
Okay.
circle.
So more spell slotty fun times.
So I can't do that till tomorrow. No controlling weather, anybody, if you need it.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, cool. And then nothing else, right?
That's I think that's it. Yeah, that's my whole turn.
Bartleby.
So the question mark is my spell book, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to move it here. And from the spell book, you will see a flash of lightning fly out towards our enemy.
That's badass.
Okay.
Is that like grease lightning? But it was book lightning?
DC 15.
Yeah, because it's from a wand.
Yeah, he dodges that.
Bummer.
Still with Bane as well.
Yeah. I rolled a 21 on my deck save, so.
Okay, he would have whatever. That's
Yeah.
fine.
So he'll take half. So 15, 16. Okay.
Yep, that's it.
And then he took 17. 24. Okay. All right. So yeah, Venkar, you're up.
You do not seem to disappear, Eslo. Or, sorry, not Eslo. Cardiff, can't you take a hint?
He laughs in response.
I will move up to the edge there, and I will cast Horrid Wilting, which is nasty.
Sure.
This is going to hurt you more than it hurts me. Unless you turn it back on me. That would hurt.
Go ahead and cast your spell.
I tried to. Hang on a sec.
First one. All right.
All right, first one.
Okay. Well, that's potent. All right. Cool. DC 18.
Hopefully a wizard is a good con. Did you say you beat it?
Hold on. Roll a d4. Okay. No, he failed that. Okay. So, you watch as the Horrid Wilting spell kind of takes hold, and you watch as his body starts to kind of like become broken and start to fall apart, and his eyes kind of like start seeping out of his eye sockets, and his nostrils kind of like start ejecting fluids. And as that's happening, he kind of grins, idiots. And you watch as his body just kind of falls in his robes. The second it does, you feel like you're being pulled, Venkar, towards the center of the glyphs there. Mr. Man standing on top of it, you just vanish. Gone.
Oh no, where did I go?
Venkar, you start to be dragged towards the center where Eslo was just kind of disappeared, and everyone else starts being pulled in that direction. You watch as figures that are in the mist kind of pull out of them and start being pulled in towards the center as well, as you're all shoved into the last point of temporal presence for this Cardiff. and also the one whose concentration was being held to keep you here.
As I'm being sucked into this, could I try to soul cage Cardiff's soul if he has one?
Is Soul Cage a reaction?
Yes, it is.
Can you cast Soul
It
Cage?
says when you. Oh wait, was he
Okay.
within 60 feet of me?
No.
I moved up before.
Let's see. He's a
Is
bit.
that within 60 feet?
He's a bit higher than you, but I'll go ahead and grant it. Let's see.
If you soul cage somebody, you can get some benefits. It's kind of cool.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not half bad.
You can use a trap soul up to 6.
It's not evil either, guys. It's just borrowing the soul until it leaves you and goes away and does its thing.
Okay.
Hey, no judgment. Sounds cool.
No, absolutely fine. So you throw out the horde building. You kind of pull out a container, a small silvery cage, and as he dies, you kind of reach out as you're being pulled towards the center, and you can see his soul kind of enter into the block, and you get sucked into the center, as does Bartleby, as does everyone besides Huli. Gets snapped into the center point where his temporal echo was left, and you all vanish from sight, from sound. Everything kind of goes dark for a moment. You get the music cued out so it's not in happy music times. You aren't really able to see anything or feel anything. Everything's just kind of spatially like non-existent, but at the same time you are aware of it. If you've ever had that existential moment where you're just kind of thinking about your own like existence before you were born or after you were born, the state of that kind of thought, that lucid thought, is the state of being that you're currently settled in. Then you start realizing that you're not alone, and you can see that there are other people present in this quite personal kind of state of being. But you start to witness that they are the people who just were with you, standing against this tyrant, this madman. You see Bartleby, unless you're Bartleby. You see Wandre, unless you're Wandre. You see Eslo, and so on. You also see Corso. You also see the other mages, Dale, Popovic, Rakash, Benson, and so on, all kind of floating in space here with you. At this end point, or this start point, or this point in between, the space that you're not absolutely certain as to where, when, on all of the other questionary words that would be placed with this. Then you see some sort of light out and ahead of you. And it feels like you could walk to it. Although walking doesn't really seem to make sense. It's more of a dedication towards ascending or moving towards this light. Do you go towards the light? Or do you remain in the darkness?
I go towards the light.
Okay. Bartleby,
Yep. Let's see.
Benkar.
Then Car will go halfway to the light and then kind of just assess the situation.
He will definitely
Tell me
move
what
towards the
happens.
light until something changes, and he's then.
Yeah. Tell me what happens, Bartleby. Andre.
I'm
If
right.
you die.
I'm right behind you, Dragonborn Wink.
Yeah.
Eslo.
Yeah, it seems like ascension. Take me to the place that I need to go.
Okay. If you move towards the light, what you realize is that you are then walking on stone, bricks that have been laid out. If you look down at them, you can see that there are strange markings on the bricks, which some of you would recognize as the words of creation from inside of the library. Based on the placement of the words of creation, each one seems to be a name. As you're passing over the bricks, for each one of you, a different brick seems to call out to you. Kind of looks familiar. Like, that's strange. Odd. Andre, you actually have an understanding of what this happens to be. This is your true name that you're walking upon, and the true names of many others, it would seem, placed on these bricks around this light. The light happens to be in a lamppost. A lamppost in the center of a small square of these stones that have been placed out with fencing around this area. Standing on the opposite side of this courtyard is a woman in black robes. You can't really make out anything besides the lower half of her face and the color of her hair. She appears to have very pale skin and long red hair that comes and cascades out of the hood of her robes. You'd also notice that hanging from the lamppost, kind of up near the box containing whatever the light source happens to be, a scarf hanging down from it. Green in color, not too dissimilar from the one that Cardiff was wearing when you basically obliterated him from existence in this current iteration. The woman looks to you all. Interesting. I didn't think the servants of the Breaker of Time would halt his progress here.
I'm no
He
unwilling.
was kind of an asshole.
Not all.
He was kind of a dick.
She kind of raises her hand. Not all at once.
I never like to be made into anybody's unwilling servant, but he was one kind of a dick, and two, he just wasn't making complete sense. I wanted to trust him.
Well, I do apologize. Your servitude continues. I can sense upon you that you are still locked under his influence. However, for the time being, it would seem that you've broken away from his shackles, but temporarily. When he sent you away, it was his intention to send you back to where you came from. With his dying breath and the last essence of his soul before it was so expertly sealed away, he intended to right his fatal mistake. However, she looks to the scarf, and you watch as it kind of descends down, hits the ground, and starts to kind of like unfold and stretch out, like it's being kind of ironed onto the bricks. You then watch another scarf kind of slide out from underneath it, another scarf slide out from underneath it, each one different colors, until there's a big pile of cloth. The cloth then ascends upwards and takes the form of a body, and a ruby eye appears where a face's eye would be. Gressil stands before you. Interesting. Indeed. I think we are done, milady. You may leave. I have more words to exchange with these ones.
What is your name? I would ask before she leaves.
She moves towards what appears to be an iron gate, kind of pushes it open. You say your words, she turns and looks back at you. Those in the world call me Ignos Kai. And she proceeds
Wait,
on.
isn't that one of the gods?
It is one of the gods.
Woohoo!
Gain inspiration for knowing shit about my world.
I got that.
Then Gressil kind of looks to you all. I know you have questions. I know there were promises that were made that were left unfulfilled. I stand at your mercy. As Gressil gestures, you can see that the gauntleted hand remains. Kind of gold gauntlet. For you, Smokey, since you haven't met Gressil, Gressil appears to be kind of an androgynous figure, kind of completely covered in robes. If you're familiar with Final Fantasy VI, maybe?
Okay.
Are you familiar with Final Fantasy VI?
Roughly.
Go.
Okay.
Yeah. So they are completely covered in robes. You can't see anything about like body or features, and the only thing that seems to kind of like shine out that's not cloth is this ruby eye, literally a solid like ruby that's settled where an eye should go, and then the hands are metal gauntlets that kind of come out of the robes.
Not quite sure I trust you.
If you'd like to roll a history to know more about Gressil, you can definitely go for that.
I will do.
You would automatically know loosely that Gressil is a powerful mage whose most prominent notoriety was that they were a gang leader in the city of Rostagar in the what we call modernity, but for you would basically be 3,000 years ago.
Okay.
And with a 26, you would know a bit more. Gressil is a collector of artifacts, a master over the evil wills of beings that are lesser to Gressil, and a master of a magic that has been the most mysterious subject matter for your college for its entire inception. Gressil is a master of a type of magic known as Conditiomancy, or the magic of the human condition, or the mortal condition, more specifically. Not much is known about that magic other than Gressil wields it.
I put the pieces together and I'm like, oh, I definitely don't trust you.
Gressil seems to not respond to that. Looks to the others.
Is there any way you could assist us in stopping that Cardiff from his plans?
I can tell you what happens next because I can foresee it now. I've had time to assess his attempts, futile as they may be, to resist the will of the gods.
Please.
When we last spoke, in a more direct fashion, we stood outside of the gates of eternity. It was my hope that you would enter in and reforge the Arch of Time. That path was blocked, and you were forced to walk into one of the 13 hells. Envy, a seat of power that Cardiff once held, and he was able to manipulate I can't say the damn word, manipulate reality, and space, and time, to make it so that the gates no longer opened to where they should go, but to where he wanted them to go. You were then forced to deal with the one who usurped his position. I came upon it towards the end through the manipulation of some matters I have at my power. Everyone who was there remembers that he rode on a griffin and wielded the sword of ultimate sorcery for a time, which is the pinnacle of magic. Like, all magic is said to have been cleft from nature by the sword. He then says, we then were forced to part ways as you chose a direction, making your way to where you were. I can tell you that no matter what path you entered into, a similar machination would have been present. Those 8 representations were the seats of his envy. He desired for there to be peace in his mind. Cardiff has been plagued throughout his existences with knowledge, understanding. In the end, Urs falls. As he says that, he kind of, as they say that, sorry, they kind of wave their gauntleted hand off to the side, and you watch as the world around you kind of spins, and you realize that the blackness that you're looking at, this darkness, is not too dissimilar from the darkness that was outside of the hole from the hell that you were in. Remember when some of you dropped down the hole and entered into, and he saved you? This negative space that you're in seems to be the same space. You watch as you kind of move about and realize that there's lights in this darkness. You can see what appears to be kind of a bluish kind of sphere with green and browns all about it, and white wispy kind of things about it. And as you focus on it more, some of you realize that it's Urs. You then see beyond it Atavius, the sun, kind of rotating in its center, and everything kind of rotating around it. You see that the Umbra resides behind the moon, and they too kind of move in their circular pattern. But far beyond all of that, in the dark of space, you can see the rift, the Dargian rift, which, if you're familiar with the Milky Way, there's kind of like that darkness in the center, that center band of the Milky Way as you look up at it. The Dargian rift is that, but it's more potently dark in its center. And you can see it more in a cosmic sense from this vantage point. And as you're looking at it, you can realize that there are streams of blackness that seem to reside, that seem to cascade out of it, and seem to move off into the heavens. You can see lines that move to small little shiny crystal dots in the space of the sky. All of these dark lines seemingly connecting to each one of these places. And you can see that around your understanding of reality, the sun, the earth, the moon, the dark moon, and so on, the realms that seem to exist around it, there's a dark line that enters into your crystal sphere from there, like a network of shadow. You also can understand that cosmically, those dots far off and away are astronomically far away. If they are similar to what you're standing on, or standing and looking at, they're not this close to the rift. You are literally on the precipice. Gressil says, in time, this existence will fall away. It will be forgotten. It will follow back into creation or destruction. You see, all that exists, be it here, the far-off worlds beyond, some nameless, some unwritten, some well-documented and well-kept. Eventually we'll all fall into this space. Urs will come sooner. It will no longer be remembered by those that reside upon it, only those that have escaped it. Cardiff sees this as a termination and understands that all of the suffering that exists between the beginning of Urs and the end of Urs is needless. It's torture to souls that do not deserve to be tortured. Those like me, and those like the maidens, understand that that is not the case. Suffering is there, but great things exist there as well. Love, hope, determination. Perhaps it will not be Cardiff that ascends outside of the crystal sphere into the heavens beyond. Maybe it will not be any of us. Or maybe those that already have do not desire for it to be something that is sought out as a goal. Perhaps just this existence, fleeting as it may be, was worth it alone. If you think that Cardiff is the right of it, next you see him, join him. But if you think your lives, temporary as they may be, are worth fighting for, then do that. As I stated, I owe you a lot of answers, and there are promises that I made that I did not fulfill. I am at your mercy.
The world in which I come from, I know not what else to call it. It
Muted yourself somehow. I don't even know how that happened. Go. Still gone? Still gone? There.
It's probably Cardiff. Cardiff did it.
Hold on. Wait.
Can
Go.
you hear me or no?
Yes, now we got you. And then you went away. What the heck? Nope. That's super weird.
How about now?
Yeah, go for a little bit.
Okay, so sorry. Basically, the utopia in which I live in, I wanted to ask, is it free from the gods' influence? Like, why? I as far as I understand it, Cardiff is one of the reasons why it is a utopia, and if he's so hell-bent on destroying everything, how could it be so?
Let me show you. And as Gressil says that, kind of closes the fingers in tight, kind of binds them, the tips together, and you see a spark of kind of white magic appear in the tips of the fingers. Gressil then opens the fingers, and everything kind of goes white for a second. You then watch as you seem to be floating in the sky above your world, and you recognize the sights below. You can see that you're not too far from the college of the Arkhanum. And Gressil states, in your history, there was a conflict, a massive conflict, between Cardiff and himself. Multiple Cardiffs came into this place because the ley lines were tight. It allowed for him to correspond with himself, but other versions of himself. However, Gressil snaps the fingers, and you watch as the plane shifts, and you see a hellscape, absolute destruction. You can see what appears to be men in bounded armor, fighting with pistols, shooting across ways, fighting against unspeakable horrors. Horrors that would make Eslo confused. Like, the nature of these creatures that are fighting these humans are unnatural and ever-changing, shifting beings. Some of these figures look similar to Corso, bound together and fighting in this place. In this secondary space where the ley lines met, your touch of peace and grace was on the very verge of an arcane destruction. Your Cardiff murdered the Cardiff here. The great darkness that the hero Cardiff destroyed was himself. From here. This place without a Cardiff experienced a magical destruction. Cardiff in your world was benevolent and gave his secrets freely. The College of the Arkhanum was formed by a series of great mages, none of which are declared to be Cardiff, but many stem their knowledge from him. The reason why great mages such as Bartleby, Rakash, and the knowledge of Venkar were passed so freely into your space was because Cardiff allowed it. Cardiff has always understood the greatness of mages, and in some versions of him, this is seen as good. The Covenant of the Ascended remains in your realm, snapping the fingers and switching it back to the calm, peaceful place. You then feel yourself kind of elevating up out of the material plane into the heavens. And the Grey Order still watches, ever vigilant, making sure that the deities do not influence mortality. Thanks to the mages and the peaceable nature of mortals, everyone has come to terms with one another. There is no hatred here, dependent on how one was born or how one was brung up. Everyone is given whatever they need. A common grace that should be exhibited across all existences, but not one that was determinately created by Cardiff. He may have been the crux that allowed for this to happen, but it was simply the nature of mortals that ascended to this point. Unfortunately, in good time. In another 6,000 years, this place would be nothing. Written out of existence. I cannot show you that because my magic is limited to this temporal space, and that's where it ends.
Excuse me,
Of course.
if you will. You say in another 6,000 years. Is that how long it is until everything is destroyed?
6,000 years from our friend Wandre here's temporal placement, which I believe is 3,000, 4,000 years after your placement in the timeline. Well, your timeline. And also Wandre's temporal nature may not be your future. It all depends on how things happen in your space. I can say this. The reason why you are familiar, gestures to Wadre, you are familiar with these individuals is because these individuals exist similarly to Cardiff across the existences of reality. That's not terribly the point, though. Your existence is not terribly the point. It is, in essence, the goal, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. My major gripe would be, why does it have to end?
I could not answer that question, and I know it's beyond the deities, because I forward that question to many of them. Unfortunately, it's just cosmically so.
And there's no saving the world this time.
Quick out-of-character note. The finite nature of just to put this into an understanding for you guys why it goes this way, for me, the imagination is based on the lives of the people who push forward the narrative. The story lives as long as those people live. So, in my mind, that creation process is the plane of shadow. It's what generates all. It is a creation of, mortal beings. That said, if I pass away, and everybody who's ever heard of my campaign setting passes away, and nobody pays attention to my stories anymore, it no longer matters. It isn't a never-ending story unless people continue to read it.
Atreyu!
So if you don't want my story to die, you should like and subscribe. I'm kidding, no, but real talk. That's why, in my mind, the imaginative nature in there.
Understood.
Anybody have any questions or demands of Gressil? Like, give me my immortality?
Yeah. We made a deal at the door to eternity. I still wish for you to uphold your end of the bargain. Either allow me to sup from the heart of, whatever, was it, the heart of the dead or something?
Yeah.
Or grant me immortality in some other way. You say the world will end. That is definitely, it is known. All things will end. You say those who leave this world will survive. I intend to be among them.
It's beyond my power to give you what you wish, but kind of draws the claws across the air, and you can kind of feel motion. You then watch as you kind of tilt and are now kind of looking down at a physical plane, as though you immediately recognize the scene. You are looking at yourself standing in opposition to a moon elf cleric and a number of other individuals that are present with her. You see that Shadow Stenin, is present with the blazing hammer and kind of looking at the opposition. And you know at that point you were engaged in aiding your friend Stenin and defeating these individuals. You watch as a brilliant light flashes as the Moon Elf Cleric bursts with divine energy and becomes a goddess before your very eyes. And before your very eyes, watching it from 2 vantage points. You then watch it just stop as Gressil kind of drops his fingers down. You recall this moment.
Yes, the moment of my demise.
No. Let me show you. You feel yourself kind of lowered down to that position, all of you, and are kind of standing on this battlefield. It's just a stone kind of open space. Looks like it was built as some sort of like courtyard or kind of amphitheater. And seeing it from this vantage point, the elvish cleric in her current stat is kind of like arching backwards. Looks like she's being ripped apart physically by this deity, and she's becoming this goddess figure before you. Most of you recognize the goddess immediately as the goddess of the moon, Stasia. And you can see that the magic seems to be overwhelmingly taking over Eslo. Gressil then draws the fingers across the air again, and you watch as the light kind of pulses over you, and you seem to just vanish from that space. Gressil then turns their hand, and you watch as you shift from that position into a different planar existence. You're now standing on what appears to be the plane of shadow, which is kind of like a duplicate of that space, and you can see Eslo appearing in that space. You then watch as a massive black tentacle slams down and grabs the hold of Eslo. Gressil stops the time again. At this moment, you are torn in two different places. Two masters seek to take you. Cardiff, who saw you as a powerful ally in his attempt to continually break the arch, and I believe you're familiar with that one.
I freed myself from Derlithoth. Not again.
Watch. Draws the claws out, and you watch as you see yourself being torn away from that space by Cardiff, and you watch as you're being torn away from that space by Derlithoth, but you're still standing there. Which one do you want to be?
I wish to be free.
That one, pointing at the one who remains, is very free, but very dead. The one that stands here before me still serves Cardiff and is still bound. This is the one that I need. Your connection to him is necessary to move you forward. However, once this one dies, that one is free. Do you understand?
I do. Accept.
Good. Draws the claws, points them upwards, and then everything kind of just shifts back into kind of floating above. I will make it even better for you. The maidens have some influence over the land of the dead, where you will be reborn. You should have the power to claw yourself out of that space, but they will allow you to do so eternally. More than fair for my promise broken.
I would say so.
Very good. Bartleby, Venkar, and then you watch like this kind of weird kind of twitch for Gressil, and you can hear the voices of at least a dozen, if not more, names kind of uttered from Gressil, as if they are addressing people who are not present. You're pretty sure you make out some familiar names, ones that you've walked alongside with in this strange path, but it seems that Gressil is not addressing just you lot, but apparently other people who you're not seeing that are present. Our time is short. If you have anything remaining that you wish to ask me or demand of me, do so now.
You go first.
I'm going to re-ask the same question I did at the beginning. What assistance could you provide in defeating this Cardiff?
Knowledge at this point. Depending on how accurate I am in my understanding of his next move. Oh. It depends. But my ability to spatially apparate near and around you has become limited. It seems he has become wise to my nature. When I attempted to do so on the last plane, he ripped my corporeal body into ribbons. Quite literally.
What is his next move, then?
As I understand it, his next move is to attempt to secure the position of one of the maidens in the material plane, placed there where she should not be, long ago, by magics outside of his understanding. It would appear that his attempt is to find and secure the powers of the goddess Lamak, bound high up in the mountains of Icefang, in the province of Osiria.
In what time period?
He would have to move when she is most vulnerable, so I could not tell you for certain, but you will find out once he pulls you to that place. Venkar?
What are you going to have us do next?
As I said, I cannot give you a detailed understanding of what your next step will be, but the step will be yours to take when it comes apparent. You will know what to do, or you won't. I can tell you this. Your binding of the circle in the temporal existence that you just left was sufficient. Add a character note. You did pump enough spell slots into it to get it to be permanent. So, good job. I didn't tell you how many you'd need to do. I just put it out there as an option, so great job. But, moving back, he says, your efforts there were sufficient. The causality of that temporal state, as I understand it, results in your, points to Eslo, current understanding of what you would call history. This happened. Your understanding of the Tarrasque and your fear of it is rightful, mainly because after that point many other villains attempted to break that seal, did they not?
Yes, there's always someone trying to unleash that monstrosity. They could find a way to permanently destroy its body, I'm sure they would have.
It is impossible to do so. There are certain things we understand will probably continue beyond the realm once it falls into shadow, and one of those things is the Tarrasque. That said, when you come upon the goddess Lamak, you can give her this. And he pulls off the original green scarf and hands it to Venkar.
Thank you.
She will know this is a token from her sister, Ignos Kai. Remind her of such. She may have forgotten. That said, I believe your time is short. You see, before he says that, there's kind of this moment where Gressil kind of glitches, and you realize this is Gressil asking everyone else who is present that question. And for the patrons who are not currently playing but are watching, I will be fielding this question in the Patreon-only chat. If you have anything to address Gressil in this current end of time space, you can certainly do so. But yeah, that said, you feel yourself being ripped from this position and moved somewhere else. That somewhere else will be unveiled in the next session. Alright, thanks for watching. I'm going to go ahead and kill the stream.